Our number one goal in small groups is the exact same goal that we have in every single other thing that we do in youth ministry. It's to build relationships. When you're sitting in your group on Sunday morning with your small group discussion guide in your hand in front of a bunch of entitled teenagers who could care less about what you have to say, the most important thing in the room at that moment is your relationship with those students. So what is a relationship? A relationship is mutual knowledge with positive regard. Mutual knowledge. It's that we want to know who these students are. What is it that gets them up in the morning? What is it that they're passionate about? What is it that gets them excited and inspired? What is it that they want to accomplish in their lives? What is it that frustrates them, that upsets them, that angers them? We want to know who they are. And not only who they are, but we want to have positive regard. How can we get below these students and elevate them and lift them up and move them towards their potential? How can we best serve them? That is the most essential thing that we can accomplish through small groups. That is what small groups are for. We should spend our time deepening our relationship with our students. If we're not doing that, then all we have is Sunday school. And all you really get out of Sunday school is a bunch of students who don't want to come back next week, when what they need are relational bridges across which we can share the truth and love of Christ. If building relationships is the most important thing that we can accomplish in small groups, then that means that there are a number of things that aren't the most important things. One thing that isn't the most important thing is getting through all the questions. A lot of us take the bulldozer approach to small groups. I know I've done it before, where our goal is just to get through all the questions. And we're going to get through these questions come hell or high water. And so question 1, if they don't have the answer, we'll give them the answer. And question 2, if they don't have the answer, we'll give them the answer. And by the end of it, we will know that we have gotten through all of the questions. And I get that, and I understand the motive behind that. The problem with it, though, is that it doesn't build relationships. And when a student makes that bonehead decision and just makes a mess of their lives, they're not going to think back to 3 months ago and the answer you gave to that question about the thing that they're trying to deal with now. What's going to stick in their minds is, who do I have a relationship with that I know understands who I am, cares about me, that I can go to figure out how to deal with this problem. The thing that's going to stick in their minds in the long term isn't an answer to a question. It's going to be a relationship. Another thing that isn't the most important thing is getting them to see things my way. We do this and our motives are good. You know, we've been through high school and we've made the poor choices that we see them making, and we're on the other side of it and we know the impact that it has. And so we want more than anything for them to be able to see this from our perspective, to see like, look, if you make these decisions now, you're going to get to where I am now and you're going to regret it all. And if you could just see it from my perspective. And the motive is good, but it doesn't build relationships. Relationships are built when we endeavor to see life and see their experiences through their eyes. When we ask them, what does this look like to you? What does life look like from your vantage point? What does this feel like to you? We'll go so much further and so much less time if we would try to see things from their perspective. The difference is if we try to get them to see things from our perspective and see that if they exercise their freedoms in the way that they're doing it now, they're going to end up with regrets like we have now. And we can try to get that into them Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. But if we would just pause and say, what's driving these decisions that you're making? You know, I see you making these choices, but what's behind that? What is it that you're trying to get? What is it that you're after? And what you might find out is what they want desperately is just freedom, that They just want freedom from their parents. They want freedom from restrictions. They want freedom from rules. They just want to feel the freedom of exercising their own independent will in life. And when we have those moments where we see from their eyes, it gives us the opportunity to say, well, you know what? That's because God created you for freedom. He created you for that. Of course you want that. Of course you want freedom. That's what you were made for. But the way that you're seeking it, the way that you're going about getting it, it's ultimately going to hurt you. So let's figure out how you can seek that freedom in a way that's going to be healthy for you. Because when we start to see things from their perspective, we can speak to that perspective. And it can really help us to move these students towards their potential. Another thing that isn't the most important thing is order and discipline. I know it's essential. I know it's important. I know we have to maintain it. But never at the cost of relationships. So maybe a student pulls their phone out in the middle of the small group, or maybe they're having a sidebar conversation. Sometimes those things do need to be dealt with. And if they do, we should never do it at the cost of the relationship. It should never be calling that student out in front of the group in a way that makes them feel guilty or ashamed or embarrassed. Discipline isn't worth losing the relationship. And we have to think too that sometimes the students who need the most discipline are the same students who most desperately need a solid relationship with someone who understands them, cares about them, and takes them seriously. Another thing that isn't the most important thing is getting respect. I know that all of us, we can get our feathers ruffled if we aren't being respected by the students. It can really grate on you when you see the level of disrespect that these students can have. But we can't let that get to us in a way that undermines our ability to build relationships with them. You know, if we think about Jesus' ministry and his entire time here on earth, I don't remember a single moment where he demanded anybody's respect. The one person who most deserves respect in the entire history of the universe never demanded it. He set that demand aside because of his desire for relationships. And we need to get ourselves in that same mindset where it's not about getting respect from students, but we're going to do everything that we can. We're going to set aside everything that we feel like we deserve, the authority, the respect, what we are owed, so that we can humble ourselves to build relationships with these students. Another thing that isn't the most important thing is giving them the truth. And I know this sounds kind of crazy because our goal is to share with them the truth and love of Christ. So truth is right in there. And yes, it's important, but we can't make that the most important thing because it turns this into Sunday school. And here's what you know and I know, is that we don't care how much someone knows until we know how much they care. Someone can have the best advice for us in the world, but unless we feel like they value us, we're going to be a little hesitant. We're going to have some pause before we take that advice in and internalize it. And it's the same with these students. Unless they feel like they are valued by us, they're not going to value what we have to share with them. We can't share truth. We can't get truth where the infrastructure hasn't been built. We need to build relational bridges from us to them. Truth travels across relationships, and unless we've taken the time to build that relational infrastructure, we have no hope of getting the truth across to them. So it starts with relationships.